Good morning. Pretty excited for this conversation. We're joined by two titans of their industries and this cold morning here in Lakeland, Florida. We're in our Saunders Real Estate studio. But before we get to these two, my name is Vinh Dawkins. I'm a commercial advisor here at Saunders Real Estate, and I'm joined by my co-host, Josh.
Hey, I'm Josh Streitmatter, broker with Eshenbaugh Land Company. Today we have a huge treat for you guys. This is the inaugural CCIM West Coast District podcast. So we thought we'd bring on, as Vin said, two titans, not only in land, not only in Florida, but nationally recognized leaders in their industry.
So Dean Saunders is the founder and managing director of Saunders Real Estate and continues to be one of the most respected land advisors in the country. Since 1985, he's specialized in large acreage land, legacy ranches, and conservation easements across Florida and the Southeast. He's an eighth-generation Floridian who also served in the Florida House of Representatives, where he helped author legislation that laid the groundwork for the state's modern conservation easement programs. Over the last 30 years, he's assisted landowners in preserving more than 300,000 acres. Today, Dean leads Saunders Real Estate, a firm of over 100 advisors serving landowners and investors across Florida and the Southeast, and he continues to be recognized nationally for his leadership in land brokerage.
Today's guest is Bill Eshenbaugh, a true legend in Florida real estate and one of the most respected brokers in the country. Bill is the founder and president of Eshenbaugh Land Company. He successfully navigated multiple real estate cycles over a 40-year career by staying ahead of trends and understanding land at a level that very few do. He's known throughout the industry affectionately as the Dirt Dog, and he has earned numerous Broker of the Year and Top Producer awards, including national recognition from RLI, NAR, NAIOP, CCIM, Tampa Bay Business Journal, Tampa Bay Builders, and many more. He's been a director and an officer in many of these major organizations in Tampa Bay, and he's advised developers, institutions, investors, and friends. He's played a role in some of the most significant land deals in the region. If you want to understand where the land markets are heading and how deals actually get done and what it takes to stay relevant in this business, you talk to Bill Eshenbaugh. That being said, let's get into it.
All right. Start us off, Josh.
Okay, so first question being, tell us why and how you got started in brokerage, Bill.
I moved to Florida in 1983, have been in the trucking business in Pennsylvania, came here and I was president of a home building company. My focus was primarily acquiring land for the company and arranging loans with savings and loans that were lending money like crazy back in those days. So the money part was easy. Finding land was a challenge because I didn't know much about Florida, but got into it, got my license in 83. When I left the company in 87, I decided I really had enough with big companies and running lots of people. I became a sole practitioner, a real estate broker doing land deals, and there were lots of builders still coming from Texas to Florida looking for lots. And having been a home builder, that was a natural for me. I just fell into it and started selling lots to crazy Texans. And a couple of years later, I started selling lots for them when they left Florida, went back to Texas.
And Dean, how about yourself?
I decided somewhere along the line that I liked sales. Probably when I was 8 years old, my dad was in the Rotary Club, and we had a pancake supper ticket sales. And my dad is like, we're 180 degrees apart personality-wise. He's super introverted, I'm not. So at 8 years old, I took those stack of tickets he had, and I walked around town. I grew up in Claremont, so you could walk around town, small enough then. And I sold pancake supper tickets for my dad, and he won a little 8-inch black and white TV for being the top salesman. Wow. I think we sold like 140 tickets or something.
Wow.
So kind of ignited that sales thing in me a little bit. And so when I was a senior in college at the University of Florida, I majored in citrus. I said, maybe I might sell an orange grove or two, so I'll get a real estate license. I got a real estate license when I was in college. And then, when I went to work for Lawton Childs, when he was in the U.S. Senate, and when he retired from the Senate, I said, maybe I'll take this license and go try to make a living with it. And the day we closed the office, I wrote a contract that replaced my entire year's salary. So never looked back. And that kind of is what propelled me.
Wow. Was that door knocking in Claremont when you were a kid? Wow.
Oh yeah, door knocking. And then it was kind of like I had my regular route. And so they just say, what are you selling now?
Yeah, here comes that kid again, right?
Yeah, here it comes. Right.
You probably have a nice clean white T-shirt on, a little pair of jeans. Your mother comes your hero,
Again,
right?
Dean.
Go get them.
Yeah. So,
Very cool. Dean, what specific habits or decisions have most contributed to your success today?
I was thinking today as I was reading the Wall Street Journal, and I was looking at a guy. I was reading some letters to the editor, and the guy was talking about being in one of the books that made a big impression on his life was reading Zig Ziglar's "See at the Top," and I thought, man, probably early in my career, Vinh, when I was your age, I read it and was impressed by. Because you think so much. I think we think of sales as selling people stuff they don't need, right? I think people's general impression is, well, it's this pesky sales guys.
Push.
And what I realized in reading "See at the Top" is, honestly, we're just into people helping business. It just so happens that they have a need for land, or they want to have a need for land, and so we're just helping them. And so it fundamentally changed my perception of sales, reading it, and challenged me in ways to always think about, well, what's in it for them? What's in it for the person on the other side of the phone, on the other end of the phone, or on the other end of the conversation? What are they trying to get done? And then there's opportunity in helping them get what they want done. And so fundamentally understanding that that's what we're doing changes the way we do it. Because now, instead of saying, well, I got to make this sale, well, can I help you?
It's a perspective shift.
How do I help you?
Now.
Well, now I understand, I need to understand what it is you're trying to do. And if I listen well and ask the right questions, you might head in a different direction. As a young budding real estate broker, you think, oh, well, the highest deal, the most money wins the day. Nope, that's not true. And I fundamentally learned that if you make a deal, not always at the highest price, generally it is, but sometimes it's terms, it's other things, right? But really, it comes down to where two parties have their needs met is where you make a deal. And our job is to understand what those needs are of both a buyer and a seller so that we can find the intersection of where those, and that's where you make a deal. And so that book made such a huge impression upon me because those ideas were born out of that approach to sales.
And that's SEE by Zig Ziglar?
SEE, See at the Top.
All right.
And his famous saying is, you know what? There's always room at the top.
Bill, what specific habits or decisions have most contributed to your success today?
Well, probably be the first guy up and on the emails at 5 in the morning for a long time for me. Help with it. Farm boy habits. I grew up on a farm where when I got my driver's license at 16, I said, Dad, well, how late can I stay out? And I said, we don't have any rules on that. I said, really? Yeah, you still have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, so you stay out as late as you want. First time I stayed out till 2 and I'm trying to bale hay at 3 o'clock on a hot Saturday afternoon. Man, I was so tired I could hardly drive that tractor. I said, this 2 o'clock in the morning stuff doesn't work. So hours of it, and I think I'm like Dean. I don't think I've ever sold anything to anybody that they didn't want. I think we're in the business of service. And one of my goals has been to, when you complete the transaction, both sides are happy enough with you, no matter who you represent, usually I represent sellers, but that both sides are happy enough with you, that maybe both will hire you again because of the professionalism and the good job you did. And I don't pressure anybody, man. I don't even pressure anybody even on my team, I don't think. So that's just not a tool. I went with my wife to some training what's called the Saunders system of sales, and it's a really good system. So I'm like Dean, my first trip in to meet people, I go with a business card and a yellow pad. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I might have 5 things in my briefcase that you ought to buy or maybe want to buy, but I don't go in and sell you anything the first trip. I want to hear what you need and how I can fill that need. And if I can fill that need, you're going to do business with me. So people do business with people they know, people do business with people they like, and people do business with people they trust. And if you can meet all 3 of those categories, you're going to be like this guy and me. things are going to work out well.
Take notes,
Yeah.
brokers watching.
Wonderful advice from you too, and I think what underscores both those statements is kind of the ethics. How do you serve the client rather than yourself? So that's a great tip there. Real estate can be kind of seen as a dog-eat-dog world, especially when you're in brokerage and land brokerage. So how did you two kind of remain such strong friends while also being each other's largest competitors, only separated by a floor?
We'd hand wrestle each other to death if we had to over a deal. But can I tell the story how we met?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
I'm teaching a class in Atlanta, the late 1990s, called Site Selection for Realtors Land Institute, part of the ALC program. And I look at my roster, and Dean Saunders on there. Now, Dean Saunders is chair of the Real Estate Commission in the state of Florida. And he walks in, and his hair wasn't quite the same color it is now, but it had some gray
True.
to it. He had a young-looking face, and I looked at him and I go, so is it you or your father that's chair of the Real Estate Commission? And he kind of bowed up on me and go, I'm the chair. Oh, boy, that was a mistake on my behalf. And I'm thinking, now how do I teach a class for 3 days and not get an audit? I don't say something stupid. He sticks the troops on me. You know? So I was kind of being wary of this guy for 3 days. But we were there, and a hurricane blew into Florida. It was coming, and they emptied the airports out. No planes coming back from Atlanta. So, what are we going to do? Lakeland, Tampa, let's rent a car. And in 7 or 8 hours of a miserable rainstorm drive, we went from a student and a teacher to guys who liked each other and started a relationship from then to become friends and competitors. We're friendly competitors, and you hear that all the time from people. We are. We're friends first, I think, and competitors secondly. We'll fight each other tooth and nail over an assignment. But if he wins, I know the client has won, a good broker. And if I win, I think he feels the same way. So it's a good, wonderful relationship.
There's a lot of business out there. We're in, the world's 17th largest economy. There's a lot of business out there to be had. But if I'm going to lose business, I never mind. Now listen, I'm out there, man. I'm trying to win the business, right? But there's nobody I respect more in the business than Bill. We've been friends and colleagues for years, and he's a worthy opponent. But I'm gonna fight to try to win the deal. Okay, and people tell me, well, I said, okay, well, you made a good choice. I mean, he's excellent. He's good at what he does. We have our little niches and a little different approaches to things. Bill probably focuses more on single family. I focus more on ag and timber and conservation stuff. But we do all of it. We touch all of it. So, there's room. But we're both trying to be at the top. So,
There's room at the top.
but there is room.
There's room at the top.
And there's also room for your competitors, right? If you do good work, and so.
Well, I'd add to that, the Realtors Land Institute has this National Land Conference, and they have the Apex Awards. I was actually chairman to put together the Apex Awards way back when. And several years, I've had to sit there and listen to the awards. And number one in the nation for all kind of sales and kind of lands, Dean Saunders, Lakeland, Florida. And then a couple of years ago, I won it. My only comment from the podium was, Dean, I finally got you. Because both of us have won the Apex National Land of all categories a couple of times, and he's won more than I have, but that's just kind of fun we have with it.
All started with the snowstorm.
Yeah.
All started with the
Hurricane.
snowstorm.
Yeah.
A hurricane, yeah.
Yeah. It's a Floridian snowstorm.
It has nothing to do with
There you go.
it has nothing to do with the Miami team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Okay. This next one's kind of going into mentoring, teaching segment. Dean, for someone looking to pursue a career in brokerage, what is one piece of advice you'd provide to them?
We'd see you at the top.
Fair enough.
I mean, honestly, I think, it is true what Bill said, right? People are going to do business with people they like, people they trust, people they know, right? So you've kind of got to focus on all of those things, right? How do you get to know people? Well, you got to be out there. You got to meet people. How do you meet people? Well, you develop systems. You join CCIM. You join the Realtors Land Institute. You immerse yourself in the community. You pass out business cards. You get to know people. But there are systems, right, to go and prospect for business. But again, just kind of that focus on, okay, well, How do I help people? So it is a mentality. How do you develop that mentality? How do I help people, right? And at the same time, you're starving to death, right? So there's this juxtaposition of, oh, I really need this deal. But listen, I try to tell my guys, listen, if you're in a conversation with somebody and you allow yourself to drift off into, okay, well, if I make this commission, that could be da-da-da, and you lose focus off of them and onto you, they feel it. I mean, how many times have you been in a conversation and you can say, wait a minute, there was a shift there in that conversation. You sense it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so you've got to be hyper-focused on, Zig says, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want. So you just got to be repeating this. Wash, rinse, repeat, right? I mean, the more people you're in front of, the more people you have the opportunity to help, and you have that right attitude and you focus, you're going to help them.
And it's sincere.
And you've got to. It's got, and it takes it's not something that always comes natural, right? Because we're all tend to be somewhat self-serving, right? I mean, it's just how we are, right? But you have to develop that mentality of, you know what, I'm just trying to help people. So I'd say really kind of developing that skill set and learning to hear no, because you're going to hear no, because not everybody needs your help, or not everybody wants your help. Okay, so go find the next people that do. But again, it's just trying to develop, I think, that state of mind. And it's not easy, and it's something you have to teach yourself all the time. Every appointment, you have to.
I think it's a lot like sailing. The tighter you keep your sails and the more focused you are on your goal, as sailing a sailboat. Right? If you haven't sailed, you probably don't understand what I'm saying, but it's just got to keep that tight sail and watch the wind all the time. You got to be watching the wind. Where's the wind taking me? Is it shifting on me? So from your perspective, you can't be doing a timber deal in Pensacola today and an ag land deal down in Immokalee tomorrow and a home builder deal Friday up in Jacksonville. You just can't do that. I don't think the two of us could do that. Maybe you might, but it's just not easy to do. You need that focus on what your product's going to be, where you're going to focus geographically and product-wise. And if it's not working, it'd be okay to shift. Okay. And the other thing is to understand it's good to get to a no sooner than later with somebody. You're wasting time if you don't.
You all the time. If we're not going to get paid, let's not get paid up front.
That was one of my sayings, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm not going to get paid. Let's not get paid up front. So don't waste time. Get to the no. So no's okay. No is okay sooner than later.
Because if you ask enough people, eventually you're going to get a yes.
Yeah.
But
Your 3 no's, good. Let's move on and get number 4. Maybe he say yes.
One of the other things I would say is there's money in the niches, right? And so I would say to all of you listening, right, focus on and be the expert in something. Be the best at something. But because the sun does not shine on the same dog's rear end every day, meaning that market could have a slow period. You need to be ambidextrous enough to be able to shift into other areas because you might have to put food on the table, right?
Pivot.
Keep powder dry. Don't spend every daggum piece of money that comes in. You've got to save money because the people that are successful in this business, A, learn how to get business, B, they learn how to manage their money, and they have enough powder dry to carry themselves. And 3, I would say, don't forget your partner in your business is Uncle Sam. When you get that commission check, you just put 35% of it away in a separate account. You do not own that money. Uncle Sam does, and Uncle is very jealous when you don't pay him. I had that call one time in my career when I got a call from the IRS. And Mr. Saunders, you owe us a whole lot of money. When do you anticipate paying us? And honestly, when I had been calculating my real estate commissions, I totally forgot about one six-figure commission. And so I had not set aside enough money. And how I did that? But kind of like Scarlett O'Hara, you know, I'll never go hungry again when she quoted that in Gone with the Wind. I said, I will never have this call ever again. And so I'm disciplined. When that check comes in, I put money aside to pay Uncle. So those are just some practical kinds of tips, I think, to help you weather the storm a little bit.
That's some great advice. I think I need to recalculate some commissions. Moving on, Bill, I believe you were the second CCIM ALC in Florida, and Dean also holds CCIM and ALC. So how important is education and specialization in brokerage?
I think it's paramount. I was trying to decide. I ran the RTC Sales Center in 1990, 92, and I reached out to the CCIM chapter in those days to help me get rid of some of the stuff that the government had foreclosed on, and met Cynthia Shelton. Cynthia Shelton, the queen of CCIM in the world, put the hook in me, ran off 100 yards of line and reeled me in. So I was trying to decide, and I went to the national conventions, went to the CCI meetings, and then I came across these RLI guys, and Bruce Earhart in Tampa was an ALC over at Cushman and Wakefield. And when I lost a deal in those days, I either lost it to a CCIM or an ALC. I thought, oh, there's some commonality here that I'm losing these things. These guys must be learning something that I need to do. And I looked around and I found this guy, Chuck Bunchu, down in Fort Myers, Florida. Chuck was a World War II vet. By the way, he went to shore at the Normandy invasion without a gun. I said, what are you, crazy? He said, no, I was a photographer. I'm shooting them as they're shooting me. They're shooting real bullets and I'm shooting film.
Oh my
He's
goodness.
a tough guy. He's a really good guy. And he had both those designations. And when I went down and had lunch with him, I said, well, why do you do that? And he looked at me like I must have been falling off a turnip truck. He said, oh, son, I make money with them. I said, oh, okay, that seems like a pretty good reason. So I came back and jumped in the deep end of the pool and did both mine at the same time. And once I got involved in the Florida RLI chapter and the CCIM chapter, I started trying to bridge the gap and say we need more people in there. There's too much commonality for what we all do to not have the good guys do both designations, the good people. And so we had 30-some at one time. I don't know how many we have today, but we had 30-some people in Florida held both CCIM and RLI's ALC designation. I think it improved the gene pool of the land brokers in Florida tremendously to do that. That the skills they have, the knowledge they have, and that's just one of the 5 E's of our company is education. And I'm continuing watching seminars. I'm 80-some years old. Why am I watching a webinar to learn something, right? Because I want to do a better job tomorrow, and I don't want to screw up today and not know what's going on. So, and that kind of takes me around the horn. You know, AI is embracing us, and everyone's trying to understand it. I'm probably have least concern about it, understanding it as most of the people in my shop, because some of them are down to 22 years old, 23, 24. But I like to also preach, there's two AIs in my world. There's AI that you all embrace, and there's actual intelligence that we bring to the table from our experiences. So you can use that one.
I've never heard
That's
that.
another good one. So Bill and I both have, our Billisms and our Deanisms. So that's a good one. Yeah.
You like that one?
Actual intelligence. Yeah.
Dean, how about yourself? I guess what caused you to get both the designations?
Just so I could learn more and I could help my clients better. Because I fundamentally I believe, we're all created in God's image and we're created to be good at what we do. And so I'm always looking at ways to, how can I help my clients? And so I need to be on top of my game. I need to know what I'm doing and what I'm telling them. So I need to know what the latest tax law is. I need to understand estate taxes. I need to understand 1031s. I need to be able to explain it to people. And so it was important for me to get those designations so that I was educated. And so I could better inform my clients. But as you get involved in the organizations, you realize it's not only about the education, but it's about the people that you hang with. And you learn. It's relationships and referrals and all kinds of stuff. So it's so much more about things, but we are steeped in it here at Saunders Real Estate. My partner, Gary Ralston, is one of the most designated brokers out there. I think he's got like 9 designations. I think there's somebody topped him now, but we really value those designations. But it's the pursuit behind it, right? It's the reason you get it. It's the and some of that evolves even, right? I mean, you may get it for the education, but then it's the relationships and contacts and referrals, and then it's I'm helping Vinh, right? He has questions about stuff. Well, I'm pulling out that AI card, Bill, that actual intelligence, right? Because we all learn from things that happen to us and our experiences that inform what we do. But what's our avenue to pass that on? Well, you know what? When Vinh has a question, I've got 3 or 4 examples of things that have happened to me over the years in that actual intelligence that might actually help get a deal done, or might be a creative way and a thing to do. And so I talked about Gary and his 9 designations. Gosh, what a resource even for me he is, right? I can go in and say, Gary, I'm wrestling with this. What are some creative kinds of ways to approach things? And the better informed and knowledgeable you are, the better you can help your clients, but you can also help the people that are around you, and we can collaborate. And that's another great benefit of being CCIM or RLI, because you can pick up the phone and call somebody that might have an expertise in an area and just pick their brains on a way to maybe help solve an issue or provide better service to a client.
Yeah, I would say too, we have to compete with each other. We also have to go compete with the Cushman and Wakefields and the CBREs and JLLs that are out there that have institutional clients. So there's a glass ceiling somewhere up there. So my preaching is, if you have the ALC and the CCIM designations, your glass ceiling is much higher than most of your competition. You may never get an assignment that some big international corporation is going to give to Cushman, but at least we're going to be as high up in the food chain as we can possibly be with it to serve our clients too. Yeah. So it helps you win deals.
It's good to hear. How many classes have you taken?
I'm almost done. I got 1 more left.
Whoo!
Yeah. Thanks to Bill, that Eshenbaugh scholarship got me started off strong, and I think you recently won it as well.
Yeah, you got good folks around me. So
yes, sir.
I got second one in second week of February, and hopefully one more tail end of this year.
You can do it.
I'm chasing you, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Dean, something we kind of covered earlier, and also as younger guys in the industry, it takes a bit to cut your teeth till the tires start to grip and you start getting traction. But how have you been able to maintain personal and professional longevity in this career?
Well, first off, there's not a day I don't wake up that I love what I do. I do, and I love the people I get to do it with. To have guys like you, Vinh, young guys that ask me questions, that gets my juices flowing. But I still, listen, I love the chase. I love the deal. I'm still out there trying to get business. And, there's a point in your career in which, if you've done all these things correctly, right? I mean, and you've done, you've pursued excellence and you really help your clients, you're going to get business. And I suspect Bill and I are at a point where we just answer the phone and we're going to get business. Okay? And that is a place where you want to be in your career. But any business is good business, right? But it's maybe not always the business that you really want to pursue at the time, even though you could just answer the phone and do it, right? There may be other larger things you want to do, or bigger pieces of land you want to sell, or where you could see you'd like opportunities. And at our point, in our stage in our career, we're also trying to help you guys, right? So we can be rainmakers to help, get deals. And so, but you got to pursue them. You got to be in the pursuit. And so I think just always having a passion for what you do, and a hunger for what you do, and always that pursuit of, but is there a better way? Can I do it better? Can I do more? And I think just always having that, because there always is. right? I mean, we're never going to be perfect, right? There's only one perfect man, and we killed him, right? So, but we are created in His image,
Yeah.
right? To be excellent in what we do. And so if we have that yearning, that zeal, that desire, it'll drive you to be better at what you do, to try to help build others to be better at what they do. And I think that's where Bill and I are in our careers. How can we be better? How can we help you be better?
Yeah, we don't want to be irrelevant at any point. As long as you're relevant, I'm going to keep on doing it. I'll be 84 in June. I think I'm still relevant. I haven't screwed up too bad on anything. But I do like teaching. I would have been a history teacher if it paid any money. But it was $3,400 a year, right?
I love
You've been
history.
a teacher too, right?
Yeah.
We had a bet.
But you can't make any money.
They can't even make money at it.
Yeah.
We actually had a bet over where Custer's battlefield is located. In a class one time, he challenged me when I was teaching, and it cost him $100 because I was right. So
In a
got you on that
CCIM
one.
class?
He did. He did.
In a
But-
CCIM class?
One of the fun things in part of this networking is we have to remake ourselves every once in a while. Because I had to remake our company in '08. The land business stopped. Home builders were gone. Some didn't buy any lots for 5 years. So I remade the company back in the image of what I did in the '90s, and that was, again, I remade it to handle bank work. And so part of my philosophy in '08 and '09 was we went out and found banks that were willing to hire us to do broker opinions of value. Those turned into listing assignments. And one of the banks one day said to me, well, this land is ag land. It's kind of out of your expertise geographically or product-wise. And I came up with the idea of kind of having a spoke and hub system. I'd be the hub because I knew how to handle the banks, having worked for the government and having done bank work twice already in my career at that point. This is my third time around to do bank work. And in '08 and '09, I said, how about this? I know how to keep the bank happy, do all the forms they want because they got regulators on them with both feet. I'll reach out to some other people. And Dean was one of the ones in my system. Said, Dean, how about this? We'll split the fees. If I can bring the business in and you sell it, we'll all do better because we weren't selling anything at the time. And gosh, here comes a bank out of Louisiana, gave me some listings in Tampa, got them sold, gave me 3 right on the edge of the Manatee County line or right on that area going east. I called Dean up and said, Dean, I got 3 out here. And there's one big ag land property and a couple other kind of dinky ones. Were you interested? I said, yeah. He said, call me back. He said, I'd like to do this. I'd like to put my son Trent on these from our side and work with you. I said, he's brand new, just got his license not too long ago. I said, well, one condition. I want to treat him like a bored mule. I want to work him hard and put him away wet. And he said, that's fine. He needs the discipline. I said, okay, great. So I made Trent go show on Friday afternoons intentionally. I made him go show property Saturday mornings intentionally because I set the schedule. So getting him out of bed at 6 o'clock in Lakeland and be down Manatee County somewhere at 7:30 or 8 o'clock on Saturday morning to show property. That wasn't his idea. But he sold it, and he sold it really nice, almost 1,000 acres out there that I think was his first big commission. And I treat him like the great grandson or whatever that might be in my sphere of influence. But it was just really nice. It was nice to work with him, and that's the kind of relationship our firms have had, is cooperate when we can, compete when we have to, and we'll all be better off for it. So I love having Trent on board. I was teaching him as a young guy, just like trying to do with Josh and some other young guys on our firm now.
So I want to pick up a little bit, Bill, on what you said, just for some of you young guys. Bill and I, I have white hair, he has gray hair for a reason. And we've lived through several cycles. And so, and you said, in '08, '09, gosh, we did. We all had, we were all scrambling. Nothing was happening. And I had just bought a new house. And prior to that, I had a little nest egg. And, to carry me through. But I got tired of it not making any money. So I pushed the chips in and invested it. And then the music stopped. And I had a credit line on my house. And I was able to live off that credit line rather than going and selling my positions that were valued at 40% to 50% of what they were valued at. So I was able to live off that credit line. But from now on, I keep at least a year ahead in advance. I've got that money to carry me for at least a year if I need it.
Short up.
And I do that both in the business and in my personal because we've lived through those tough times. Y'all haven't had those cycles yet. They will come. They will come. And you need to figure out the couple things from that. One, you need to have the staying power to be able to stay. Because let me tell you something though, when radical change happens, guess what else comes along with all of that? Radical opportunities. And if you're in a position, because you've kept some powder dry, you might be able to take advantage of some of those. But like Bill said, you need to be able to shift. And like I said, the sun doesn't shine on the same dog's rear end every day. That happens. And you need to be able to shift and be capable enough to do it. And so, but you need to have the staying power sometimes to be able to do it. And if it hadn't been for that credit line, I'd have been in a world of hurt. So anyway, just lessons from a couple white-haired and gray-hairs over here.
Some titans of their industries, that's what it is.
Yeah.
I'd say I think you would both make great history teachers, as you've both given me history lessons here and back at Eshenbaugh.
That's just because we're old. We've seen a lot.
Yeah.
Now I'd like to ask you guys kind of how CCIM has positively impacted your career, and then maybe how you've paid it forward, given back, and that way, Bill, starting with you.
Well, I had a really interesting experience with CCIM. I was with the sales center at the Resolution Trust Corporation, which was the place that all the failed savings and loans assets went. And I was in the sales center, so I had the fun selling. Everybody else had long faces walking around foreclosing out savings and loans. I'm in there going, this is great, man. I got $2 billion worth of stuff to sell when that was a big number, And so I reached out to one of the CCIMs in my office one day to look at something. I knew kind of about them. I didn't know much about them. He said, why don't you come to our meeting tomorrow night? Okay, great. So I went, a guy named Warren Berry was there. Warren was president-elect of the Florida chapter, and I never met him before. And we talked for about 5 minutes, and he said, how's it going over there? I said, well, it's terrible. I don't have a computer system. I don't have a client management system. I don't have an inventory system. We're just working off of yellow pads and writing down. I said, I have my own system. Everybody comes in and wants to buy something. I write down their name and their phone number and fax number in those days and what they wanted. The Dean Saunders, agricultural land, blah, blah, And I had these yellow pads all sorted by product type. And he said, well, you're a dumbass. And I said, well, I know people arrive at that conclusion, but I didn't realize you arrived that quickly, Why do you say that? And he said, you need to go buy a compact laptop and a program called ACT, A-C-T. It's a client management system. It's going to cost you $3,000. I said, okay, what do I do with that? He said, well, if you got stacks and stacks of yellow pads, you got some good prospects in there that you ought to have when you leave there. And if I were you, I would never take that computer in the office. Don't plug it in, but bring those yellow pads home, put some names in you think are good. Wow. I mean, I've been sitting there all day not realizing this. I came home and I had a compact by that weekend and I started putting names in, and 2 years later I had 5,000 names in there. Some are still in my database and still doing business with us today, or generationally their sons or daughters are doing business with us. So it was one of the best things that ever happened to me, is to go to that CCI meeting that night. Just a little coincidence that I listened and took action. You have to hear something, you got to take some action on it too, So for me, that was one of the best things that ever happened to me. I had the database that started me off.
Yeah, so, I would say again, for me at the time, it was broadening my understanding of commercial real estate. I understood land pretty well, but we do commercial and land, and I'm often telling my guys, you know what? Why don't you get some of that mailbox money? You own a big ranch. You got enough land. I help them sell a conservation easement. I said, maybe get some regular, steady income. Maybe take some of that money. Don't pay uncle capital gains tax, pour it into a piece of commercial land. But I needed to be able to understand it. I needed to be able to speak and understand the concepts. Now, I'm not interested personally in selling commercial land. I mean, a commercial property, that's just not my gig. I would if I had to, but I get to do the land, and I love that. But I need to understand it. I mean, I've got a commercial firm. We sell a lot of commercial real estate. I think we did like $5 or $6 million GCI last year in commercial properties alone. Not our land practice, our commercial stuff. So it's not a small part of our business, but I need to understand it. So those things, even though I may not directly be using it, but again, it's the relationships. It's the putting yourself networking where Bill gets a hint from somebody, right, who makes a suggestion to him. Hey, you might want to try this. Same for us. It's networking. It's talking to people and, hey, what are you seeing? What are you observing? What are you trying? What are you doing? And it's again, being in a position to ask those questions and be in a position to listen to those answers and then take action on them.
Yeah. I think we both realized in that 2008, 9, 10, 11 period, we need to do something differently. Our firm started the roundups with our builders. We had the speaker comes in and speaks only to builders because that's my specialty. Dean started something I really envy these days, the Lay of the Land Conference. It's huge. It's a beautiful thing that he's doing to network out there. Gary Ralston and I and Dean worked on something that they initiated here. That was the I-4 corridor view, from Tampa to Orlando. And good God, what a great corridor. And I'm not sure there's one better in the country right now. So just those kind of focuses to let the world know you're here and you're different than anybody else. So I would suggest to you that some of the originalities that have come out of Florida, and our good friends over at LSI down in Fort Myers started their conference down there. 1,600 to 2,000 people show up for it and pay for it. So between the three of us, I don't know if there's anybody in the country that does what we do to collectively and competitively to make the industry better. And those guys are down there, ALCs and CCIMs as well. So we're pretty proud that we've all elevated ourselves to bring our firms along to do a better job for our clients with the exposure of their products and exposure to the marketplace. And at the same time, you're bringing new people in. Every time you open the doors for a lay of the land, I'm sure there's new people showing up going, oh, this is pretty cool. I mean, the first time I saw thousands of dollars worth of drones was at one of Dean's deals. Going, wow, he spent a lot of money in drones, So just that kind of innovation and being leaders, I don't know, neither one of us ever set out to be the leaders in the nation of what we do. We were talking the other day, I said, wow, congratulations, Dean, you guys did over $1 billion last year. I just saw that thing. And he said, I didn't think I was going to do that much in a career, right? Yeah. I told Dean, I said, I worked so hard to get my first $10 million deal. I had one at $10.2 million, and they renegotiated in the last week back to $9.8 million. Going, man,
Yeah.
So it was forever trying to get these big deals. We belonged to some of Florida Commercial Broker Network back in the 2005 era. And Dean had to leave early one day. It turns out he's leaving early to go do a $35 or $36 million deal down at Yeehaw Junction. That was a huge deal. Nobody in that room collectively had done that much.
137 million.
137 million. Okay, I had one number right. But I mean, I don't know how he could stand being in that room and not
27,000.
jumping out of his boots and screaming to the ceilings. But he was the first guy I knew that did a deal that size ever. So it's just we've been in the right place at the right time. But we also, you can be at the right place at the right time. You got to take action to be on it. So
well, and I'll say another thing, Bill. That wasn't my largest deal. My largest deal was when I helped the Church of Latter-day Saints purchase from St. Joe Paper Company 382,000 acres in North Florida, and it was a $565 million deal. And so naturally, when you do something like that, everybody wants to know, how did you do that? How did I do a deal like that? How do I, because everybody wants to do that deal. Of course, right? If I laid that in your lap, oh yeah, man, I'm doing it. Well, how do you get there? And honestly, I tell people, I said, it was kind of one of the easier deals. It was a relationship I'd had for 30-something years that I knew, and left him my lay of the land market report. He read it from cover to cover. He was trying to negotiate buying a large piece of land in Florida, and he realized if he paid the guy what he wanted, he was paying him way too much money. And so that deal blew up. He called me and said, I'm going to be in Tallahassee in 4 days. See what you can find me. But I had to be in a position to do that, right? And so what I tell people is, that was a 30-year deal in the making. It was a 30-year relationship. But it was also a reputation I had built, doing the right things at the right time, doing them the right way, and just those opportunities are out there, and they come your way built on the other opportunities you've done and the reputation you've made and staked. And so, but doing those right things, those opportunities come. We just got to be out there continuing to slug it away.
One I think, remember, slugging away is a good segue. Babe Ruth struck out 1,364 times. Still a home run king for a long time. So you got to be doing something. You're going to be wrong some of the times. You're going to miss.
Absolutely.
You're going to swing and just hurt your shoulder, man. You're swinging so hard. But sometimes you connect, and with that connection, if you have a 333 batting average, that's pretty good, right? In baseball. So I think you told me one time one of the ways you got into the Mormon church, you were in Salt Lake City on a layover, and you went down to see him, right? So, and introduced yourself and kind of built a relationship from there. So it's just you got to be doing something. Yeah. Do something, even if it's wrong. Do something. Better than doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it informs you, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, well, I tried that. That didn't work. What did I learn?
Here's how I'm going to do it next time.
Yeah.
All right, so our viewers at home have been dying to know. Tell us about tell us about the most memorable deal of your career to date. It'd be hard to top that one, maybe you just said.
Well, that one, that's certainly, because that's a...
Maybe a not so easy deal.
Well, it's accumulation of so many things, right, that came about. But that one really, when I found out about how it kind of came to being after the deal was done. So I had this relationship with Paul Janot. Paul had been Deseret Ranch's manager in Florida when I worked for Lawton Childs when he was governor. And Paul and I just struck up a relationship. He was he's one of those people you meet in life that, we just instantly jihad. And we were good friends and had tremendous respect for him. And so he then later becomes head of the church's entire ag operations worldwide. And I had, but born out of, so that relationship was established. I'm growing my real estate practice. I figured out a way to track all the large land sales in the state of Florida, to verify those sales, that they actually happened, not just reading it off of a title report or doing research at the county, but knowing that they actually happened, that they were real deals. And then I took that and made a report out of it and figured out a way to send that out, to large landowners in the state of Florida. I then, 2013, I'm up in Salt Lake City. I'd made an appointment and went by and saw Paul, and we were sitting there talking. I brought my paraphernalia, my market report, a listing catalog. I left it for him. We sat there and we talked politics. We talked hunting and fishing. We talked Gator football. I mean, just caught up like two sorority sisters, right? Just hadn't seen each other in 30 years, just talking, catching up. I left him my stuff. But what I did not know was that prior to that very day, prior to meeting with me, he had had a meeting with this church leadership about a tract of land that's almost 500,000 acres in the state of Florida that he was trying to purchase. And he said, the gentleman wants $1 billion for this, and y'all want to buy it? And he got no response. And the head administrator of the church told him later, he said, Paul, they're not looking for you to tell you what to do. They're looking for you to make a recommendation to them. So he said that night, he said, I realized now they've shifted. I'm not just presenting opportunities to them for them to make a decision. They want my endorsement, my recommendation of that. And he said, I couldn't sleep. He said, I was challenged with spending $1 billion of the church's money. Did I think that was a good idea or not? And he said, so I couldn't sleep. I got up and I read your report from cover to cover, and I realized that I'd be paying that man $250 million more than that property is worth based upon your market report, the data contained in that report. And so what I realized is then that he then had that conversation with the landowner. I can pay you $750 million. I'm not going to pay you $1 billion. And the gentleman said, I want $1 billion. He said, okay. So there's always more than one pretty girl to take to the dance. And so that meeting lasted 15 minutes. He picked up the phone and called me and said, I'll be in Tallahassee in 4 days. See what you can find me. And so, so it's a very memorable deal, obviously, because here my market report and a relationship I had converged, right? And it led to my largest deal ever. I'd say that's a pretty good return on investment on both a relationship and on my market report.
Yep.
But they were just doing the right things, right? And so, yeah.
Just stacking them.
I mean, again, it's just doing the little things and doing it, trying to do the right things.
Yeah, I think I've got a couple of deals that are heritage deals that are ones I can drive by the rest of my life and go, I did that one. And the one that comes to mind probably is the Tampa History Center in downtown Tampa, in the Water Street area today. It was vacant land. I had it listed for $8.2 million. It could be office, could have been hotel, could have been condo, but nobody was doing office, condo, or hotels on that side of the water. It was just sitting out there near the Ice Palace, near the Marriott Hotel had been built out there, but it's kind of isolated too. And
At the time it was.
at the time, yeah. Today it'd be $10 million an acre probably today, but with $8.2 million, about 2.5 acres. And I got a call from Dick Greco, who was mayor of Tampa for the 4th time, and a good guy. Billy, I want to buy that land down there. I said, well, that's great because I've got it for sale. And he said, there's only one problem. I don't have $8.2 million. I said, well, that is a problem, because I'm in the same boat as you are. I don't have $8.2 million either. I'd buy it. He said, well, how are we going to figure this out? I want that land. So I went back to my contacts from years gone by. Trust for Public Lands up in Tallahassee was somebody I had done business with back in my RTC days. We saved a property down in Key West, so it was a Truman Annex. They bought it. And Trust for Public Lands basically comes in, they buy something in cooperation with the local government, and a couple of years later they find new money to take them out, and they make a nice spread on it. And so they're not brokers, but they're investors for the public good, I think is one way of describing it. And so I called my friend Greg Chelius up there, and his first deal he ever did when he was working for Trust for Public Lands was with me through my RTC days. So we're friends. We've kept in touch. And I said, hey, I got a deal for you down here. And he came down and he looked at it. He said, well, we like that. And so we sat down with Mayor Greco and figured out how over a couple of years' time they could make their spread on it. Brought them in and paid $8 million for it. My seller was hard-nosed. He gave up $200,000, but he thought he was just being stuck in the back of the neck with a needle or something, doing it. He just screamed and hollered, but he got it done. And today, the History Museum is there. One of the early celebrations was Carlton Ward decided he'd do a reenactment of a Florida cattle drive because the 5 Centuries of Cattle exhibit was on display on the top floor. And he brought in some cattle, little wild animals off the ranch. You never seen paved streets. Put them up by the Marriott in a round pen. He had some cowboys dressed up in 1880s cracker wear, riding little cracker ponies with their cattle dogs. And they're going to walk these steers down the street. Except the streets are lined with people and baby carriers and yappy dogs and all that kind of stuff. And the first lead steer goes, this is not a great idea. I don't like walking down the street, man. So he brakes and starts down the street. And these little cracker cowboys are up on the sidewalks, the elevated sidewalk by the streetcar track and everything else. And it looks like it's just going to be a collision of people. Somebody's going to get hurt here. They got it done. But I got a warm spot for the History Museum because the way we got it done, because over time it is preserving the history of Tampa Bay, the history of Florida. The 5 generations of cattle were honored there a couple times over time. So it's one of those deals. Not the biggest deal I ever did. I didn't make the most money I've ever made on one, but it would be there forever. So it's a heritage. That's kind of fun of our business. It could have been a condo deal today. It's been part of Water Street. I wouldn't even remember I did it probably, but I do remember that one. That's just one of the ones that sticks out.
Wonderful stories from you both. And I guess to close it out, because we had kind of talked about cycles and being that you two have seen many and prospered through them, kind of what's that 10-year trajectory for Florida, for the United States? How do you spot a cycle maybe? How do you, not get greedy when everyone else does? And how do you get shrewd when people get greedy?
I think the answer part for me is constantly paying attention to news sources, listening, being out there talking to people, talking to guys like Dean that know more than I do. What's going on, Dean? Just networking at the CCIM events. You see me there almost every month. I'm not there because I need to meet anybody new, but I'm there to hear what people have to say that they see. I talk to my home builders almost every day about what they're doing. Same with apartment guys, equity people. So I to me, it's a hands-on business. Is listening and listening, and you never know when you see the sign. It's like the Wall Street bell rings at 4 o'clock when it's over. That's definitive. Our bell doesn't ring saying it's over in a land deal or it's starting, but you get a sense of talking to enough people that, oh my God, I'm not going to get another multifamily deal done for a couple of years because equity's gone, interest rates are up. So knowing that ahead of time and maybe talking to your clients, look, it's time to reduce the price or put your stuff back on the shelf and let's wait till the cycle renews. It's being out in front of it. It's just, to me, it's a people business. It's information you're sometimes never going to see printed. It's what somebody tells you. I watch layoffs. When we send out the Eshenbaugh report, I get back everyone that's rejected. And I start looking at, well, they're on vacation or whatever, maybe I get a notice back. But I look at the ones that lost their job, no longer here. Oh boy, when we sent out the fourth quarter here in early January, fourth quarter of last year, there were a lot of changes in the multifamily business, in the single family business, of people who are no longer at wherever they were. So that to me is, okay, there's some shifts going on here. What's just another piece of information that maybe Dean doesn't have because he doesn't get that same feedback about home builders, for example. So it's just trying to be a little bit more knowledgeable than the next guy to serve your clients.
Yeah, so there are a lot of subtle things that you pick up on. Like, phone's not ringing as much. Or, you know what? We had a lot more phone calls.
Yep.
A lot more. I mean, I remember after the pandemic, and we just thought, oh my gosh, it's the end of the world. It's like, because it was literally, hey, y'all go to the house, quit working. But then, about 6, 7 months after that, it's like, the phone's ringing more. What? That's interesting. And you just started, and then it just went crazy. So it's subtle things like that, right? It's not, and so I tell people, I say, my sense is that the market's flat or that it's probably going to decline, but I don't have any evidence to suggest that, to point you to clear, convincing things that that's happening. But it was just a sense. But it's the subtle things that you just pick up, right? And then at some point you kind of like, I remember in 2005, it's like I'm scratching my head. I'm like, how many damn houses can we build in Florida? It seemed like that there were 30 million permits or something that had been issued. I mean, it's crazy. And you're like, or 30 million lots have been approved, or whatever. Like, that's twice our population. I mean, what the heck? I mean, these aren't real numbers. I'm making those numbers up. But you realize, wait a minute, everything's getting entitled. And there seem to be a lot of lots on the ground, and there seem to be a few houses that have turned into be spec houses that I don't think that developer exactly had expected them to be spec houses.
Yep.
This ain't gonna last, right? And so you kind of realize that it's like the beginning of the end, right? And I tell people, look, it's kind of like the law of physics, law of the economy, law of anything, right? Too much is too much, right? And there's an equal and opposite reaction for every action. What goes up will come down, but you know what? If it goes down, it will come back up. You just have to be able to figure those things out. So you're understanding where you are. Multifamily was the hottest ticket out there about 3 or 4 years ago. Well, that's kind of a little in the doldrums. Now, will it stay in the doldrums? No, it'll come back. Cattle cycles, right? I mean, by gosh, we're record pricing for cattle. It won't stay there. They'll pick up production. But, it's just recognizing some of those things and some of the subtleties because you can kind of see it coming. But again, sometimes it's hard to have all the hard evidence to show it, right? Yeah. Because we're on that front line. It's kind of like, yeah, I'm sensing the winds are subtly changing. But Bill gave the sailing technique. Well, maybe it's shifting a little to the east-southeast as opposed to the southeast, right? It's subtle, but it's a little just so you might want to tack a little bit to adjust. And then suddenly it shifts to, it's an eastern wind now, not a south, not east-southeast, right? So it's just subtle things.
Yeah. Our industry, we're the as they say, the canaries in the coal mine, which was way back before we had methane detectors. The miners would take a canary down in a cage, and if the canary went upside down, oops, there's methane here, we better get out of here before it blows up on us. And so we land guys tend to be that canary in the coal mine. We're smelling the methane long before, I guess you can't smell methane, but we're sensing the methane long before the public sees it. And so it's our job to help people understand it, because they can make intelligent decisions by our input from it. So, sometimes you feel like this, right? A little toes are in the air.
Yeah.
I guess kind of
more?
my last question would just be kind of passion projects you're working on. Bill, I know you have your book. Would love to give you a second to talk about it. And Dean, anything that you're working on that's kind of more the personal side rather than business.
Great chance to plug Up the Shenandoah, a book I written about civil war studying about my great grandfather and grandfather's service. But it's a historical novel, so I get to write dialogue and stuff that didn't exist just to make it up. And it launched on Amazon back in November. We've had some really good sales out of it and really great comments by people who've read it and commented back to me. So I'm now a certified author, I guess. Never thought I was going to be that in life, but it probably appeals to my history sense as well, and honored my ancestors in the book. So it's a fun read, I'm told. So go buy it. Go buy Amazon. Go buy a couple hundred copies for your employees, right? So,
A lot of my passion projects are work related, right? I mean, I'm an 8th generation Floridian, and so I'm passionate about not seeing everything developed, right?